Welcome in, fools, to episode 26 of the Fantasy Foolz Podcast. Yes, thank you, audience and fans, for celebrating our success. That is yet to be success. But welcome in. Today we have a great episode. We were off last week. Somehow our careers got in the way, but we are back with our next episode. And today we are going to dive into the NFL news that's happening around the league, and then we're going to go into, and this is something that we've been working on, I'd love to say all off season, but mostly just last week, and that is we're going to give y'all a sneak peek into our 2024 fantasy rankings, and end up our divisional breakdown with the NFC West, the last divisional league. Sad to move on from that segment, but happy that we're only 2 weeks away from preseason. Less than 2 weeks.
I'm so excited. I mean, it's getting so close. I started watching the show The Receiver on Netflix. Oh,
yeah.
And that got me in such a football mood, man. Oh, my God. I'm so excited for football.
Rave reviews on Receiver. You like it?
Good reviews on Receiver. It may or may not have impacted my rankings.
I will say, Mike, I'm with you. You know, it's funny because right before we started this episode, we were actually just talking about Mike and I are in a dynasty league, and we have started our rookie draft for this season. And, you know, getting into that again, getting in that mode, I'm pumped. Being in this draft got me so excited again for fantasy, and I can't wait for this to happen. But
I feel like, I'm sorry, I have to cut you off. I feel like I have to get a humble brag here for you. I mean, like, let's talk about the big trade. I want to hear from all of our audience members, all three of us who are on this podcast right now. What do you think about a Ja'Marr Chase trade in a dynasty format, and all you have to give up is a first-round pick, which I believe was back 6 in a 12-team league. It was like a number 8 overall and a 4th. How ridiculous is that, Jordan?
That's a steal.
Yeah,
that's a huge
steal. I can't believe it.
I really thought so. All right, so the long story short of this trade was
bullying.
So I really thought someone would really want and put a lot of value into Caleb Williams. That was how I was going into my trade. And so Caleb Williams in our dynasty made it through the first, I think it was 6 rounds, and I was pick number 7.
6 picks. Picks.
And so I was up. Caleb Williams was the number 1 ADP on the board. And I thought I would play into that by feeding into someone's desire that they really are buying into this Caleb Williams crap.
And you certainly did.
So I traded what I thought was going to be Caleb Williams for Ja'Marr Chase and Caleb Williams in a 4th round for next year for Ja'Marr Chase. Yeah, right. Words. It ended up, he didn't even pick Caleb Williams. He picked Keon Coleman with the 6th pick. So I basically got Ja'Marr Chase for Keon Coleman.
You're missing the best part. So you did all this, right? And you did all this expecting that number 7, because it was pick number 7 that you had. You were expecting him to be Caleb Williams, and then it was going to go, and you're going to add in the 4th pick to get Ja'Marr Chase, which is insane to me as is. But guess what? I understand the whole point. But then when they passed on him, and they took then they took Keon Coleman. Guess who's sitting pretty with pick number 8 and Caleb Williams still on the board? Tyler still has pick number 8.
So I fed into pick number 7. I fed into that to try and give him Caleb Williams. Then I traded away pick number 7 in a package for CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott. I mean, I didn't even draft someone until the 3rd round, and I was fine with it.
I'm so pissed. As a competitor, I'm so pissed. Because Tyler, in the meantime, me and him are both rebuilding. No, I take that back. Me and him were both rebuilding. Okay? So I had pick number 1. He had pick number 2, which I actually got from him. So in this league, he did all those moves, right? He did all those moves. And Jordan, I'll let you know, this was my draft, okay? Because I was pick number 1 and I tanked. Tyler will tell you, I tanked completely to try and get all the best picks in this draft. And I did. I got pick number 1, number 2, number 4. And then I got, again, since I was number 1, I also had the first pick of the second round and everything too. In this draft, he went the trade route and got all these veterans who can play right now. I picked Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr., Brock Bowers. I already have Sam Laporta. I have Jaden Daniels, and I got Marshawn Lloyd and Jalen Wright. Those are my picks right now, and I still am on the clock actually right now. So,
and I still came out better.
Yeah, I'm so pissed. But you know what? I might be disgusting in 3 years, though.
Yes, and I will not.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you never know.
Well, that's true. I got Chase and Lamb, and they're both really young. They're not bad. That's why I did it, because they're good. They're going to be good until they're 30, and maybe if not 30, 29. And I was really looking at that. Like, I don't care. 2 years from this draft, I'll find it out later. But anyway, Mike, why don't you talk to us and tell our audience all about the NFL news happening around?
Sure. I will get to that. But I do want to make the one big point of this is what happens when you trade. So everybody, don't be afraid to trade. But going back into the news.
On you guys saying that he's going to be good till around 30. Keenan Allen was what? Number 6 overall last year?
Last year? No, I think he was number 8. But still, you're right.
He was still top 10. He was top 10. He's now 32.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, to your point, Tyler, they're still going to be top 10 even into their 30s.
Yeah. Especially them too.
It depends on where you are. It always depends on that stuff.
Unless they go the Antonio Brown route.
Well,
but anyway, Mike,
that's
kick us off with some news.
One of one, Antonio Brown.
One of one. Yes, that is true. But kicking off with the news, we got more contracts to talk about, right?
Whoa.
So guess what? A couple more QBs have somehow, again, locked up a lot of money, right? You got Jordan Love coming in with a 4-year, $220 million deal. Now, this one has a little bit of controversy, but it does have some major milestones. $75 million in signing bonuses, $160 million guaranteed over 4 years. That makes him tied with Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow, guys. Is he the other one he's tied with for $55 million a year?
Yeah.
$55 million a year. Those three are the highest paid QBs in the NFL right now.
I think Herbert as well.
I think there's only 3. There's only 3 of them at $55 million a year. It's Trevor Lawrence, it's Jordan Love, and I'm pretty sure it's
Can you hear him?
I don't hear him.
I don't hear him. Anyway,
Trevor Lawrence.
The next news we're going to talk about is
Justin Herbert. And now Jordan Love make $55 million a year. But moving on with more news.
Technical difficulties, Mike. Goodbye.
Well, DJ Moore got a big payday.
DJ Moore got a big payday, 4 years, $110 million, 82.6 guaranteed. It was actually really funny because I think everyone was expecting someone to move in this team, but the Cowboys signed nobody. I don't know what to do. Mike is staring at me right now, and he's not even here. There he is.
Hey, there he's gone. He's coming back. But Cowboys signing nobody is a good point. I do. Tyler, what do you think? You think that this will be done by beginning of season? I don't think so at this point.
You know what? Look, it depends on who the Cowboys lost. If they didn't lose their big players defensively or on their offensive line, I think the Cowboys are going to come out fine. They made the playoffs last year. From a fantasy perspective, I think it's not going to kill us that they didn't draft or sign anybody. I don't even know who they drafted, but anyway, I don't think this affects them too much. I still think they remain competitive, whether it's on their defense or not. I still think CeeDee's going to put out points. I still think Dak is going to be, a top 5, top 10 quarterback. I don't think it's a huge loss for the team.
So I think here's the thing. I personally, like you said, this doesn't the Cowboys organization, football, whatever. All the other teams are solidifying their core. Cowboys really are not. Welcome back.
I need to figure out what's going on.
Michael.
I need to figure out what's going on with my internet. My internet has been sucking lately.
We're talking about the Cowboys sorry. Currently. You're good.
We just finished on the Cowboys, Mike. Why don't you tell us about Rashaad Penny retiring?
No, we were talking about the Cowboys.
And I moved us on.
And you preemptively did so. So
I did. Very emptively.
Cowboys...
It wasn't pre. It was emptive.
Cool. Anyway.
Awkward silence. Cricket.
Then, speaking of Cowboys, in terms of what's going on with them as an organization, Dak and CD, it doesn't really matter right now. But for fantasy reasons, I kind of gave me a bump on my personal rankings of both of them, that they're both in the final year of their contract. They had awesome years last year. CD was number one. Dak still played lights out. If they can repeat that, especially in the year that they want that contract extension, I'm almost excited for a fantasy point of view that neither one got a contract, because they're going to play lights out this season.
Oh, man. But I guess I had this point on here because of one thing. And it's just all these contracts that are going out there. Dallas is going to bankrupt themselves because they are just watching the price tags of these guys go up and up and up and up. If you're literally getting Jordan Love and Tua over $200 million over 4 years, what do you think Dak's going to go for?
Yeah. I mean, you got a point. It's going to be interesting to see when someone draws a line on these quarterback signings, especially knowing how much that hurts their cap space.
I know you've been very, very adamant about that. You've been saying that they've been overpaying quarterbacks for a while. I actually am kind of I've been waiting for kind of that Moneyball moment. It already hit baseball, right? So I've been waiting for that Moneyball moment to come back and hit the NFL, because it's coming. It's got to be coming.
Yeah, it's eventually someone's going to say, you know what? The 20th quarterback is just as good as the 10th quarterback, and I only need a 10th ranking quarterback to hit the Super Bowl, and I just don't think it's going to happen. I think I'm waiting for when they just give up on it. But anyway, it looks like we lost Statman again. So Rashaad Penny retires.
I do
Are
think
we finally there.
The 55 mil club.
We're not. All right,
but
now we're going to talk about Rashaad Penny retiring.
Damn it.
This man can't.
You guys
leave
went
our
on
minds.
forever about Dynasty. I want to make a couple of points about relevant fantasy news.
We didn't go on forever.
Mike keeps leaving.
We didn't go on forever. I'm switching. I'm already going to my hotspot. I can't do this anymore. Anyway,
You look like an 80s arcade
He just
game.
cannot.
I look like a what?
Who
You
wants
look
to
like
talk
an
about
80s
the
arcade game? That's how pixelated you are, buddy.
Who wants to talk about the kicker's new rule? Can someone please carry on?
Apparently, the ball can't go sideways. Continue.
All right, that's
Am I on
news.
your pace now, Tyler? Rashaad Penny retired, by the way. No need to talk about that. Continue.
That was great.
This is our best episode.
This is awful.
Are you guys gonna make us restart again and re-record?
No, we're gonna keep going.
We get one.
Honestly,
all right, we're gonna
push through.
We gotta keep going.
All right, Mike. We'll see you in a little bit. We're sure you'll leave soon.
No, don't worry.
Anyway,
I switched to my hotspot. I'm good to go. But what do you want to go through? Do you want to go through the news again, or do we want to just move on to our little?
No. Move on to segment 3.
Yeah, agreed.
No, we want to talk. Did you guys know Rashaad Penny retired?
He did. I did. I heard that today.
All right, bring us into segment 3.
Oh, you want me to do it? Okay, I'll do it. So
no, I'm gonna do it.
Okay.
No, I'm gonna do it.
Then don't say
whoever's
bring me
name
in.
is next to this segment. I don't know.
No one's name is next.
No,
to it.
it's
But
not.
anyway, we have to get into now our rankings sneak peek. And our sneak peek we're giving you today, the listeners, if you're still here, I won't blame you if you're not. We are going to talk about who each of us ranked at number 5 in wide receiver. So I think this is going to be really interesting to see. And this is, again, just a taste of where we are right now. We're fine-tuning, finalizing those rankings by position for fantasy value. And I want to see, spoiler, we're all different picks here for number 5. But I think, Mike, who is your number 5 wide receiver for your 2024 rankings?
I will tell you, I got to say, I was shocked when I was going through this and I saw that it was on my number 5. But you know what? I got to go with it. I just have my thoughts that he might really go to this spot. And I have Justin Jefferson. Okay. The previous pretty much slam dunk number 1, number 2 guy. Yeah, I have him falling to number 5.
Wow. And I think, we've talked about this a little bit about his value, knowing that you're either going to have Sam Darnold or rookie JJ McCarthy. I think, Mike, to your point, he's a superstar, right? He's still going to get you points even if he's got a terrible quarterback. But interested that he's number 5 and he didn't drop a little. I think on mine he dropped further. And Jordan, I think he's dropped a little bit on your rankings too.
He did. He went, honestly, I put him around number 6 on my preliminary rankings right now. I think there's guys with more solid quarterback situations. I'm not saying they're more talented than him. He's probably the most talented of the bunch, but they're just going to have more solid, passes to them.
Yeah.
They're not going to be figuring out chemistry. They already had chemistry. Like, it's already built. So it's just continuing what's already built. And the one thing that kind of kept him a little bit high on my list is
we want to keep these a little bit to ourselves, right? I mean, we're going to go over these in future episodes, aren't we?
Yes, we will. We're only talking about our picks.
But current point of news, okay, you're right. Jordan Addison with his DUI. Jefferson will be the main show for the first 3 weeks. But my number 5 pick.
That's implying that he's not anyway. Of course he is.
He is the main show, but even more targets his way. But Puka is my number 5 pick.
No, it's not Puka. It's Pukachu. Thank you.
Pukachu.
There we go. Title, episode 26, Return of the Pukachu.
It's not you, it's Pukachu.
I choose you, Pikachu. So, I went with Puka Nacua. I think Matthew Stafford's ready to come back healthy. I do think Cooper Kupp's going to be there enough to distract the defense, but he's not going to command enough targets. And Puka's going to be a clear-cut number 1, and Cooper Kupp's going to be a clear-cut number 2. Kind of like a DJ Moore's Keenan Allen situation.
I don't know about that one, but I would definitely agree where Puka's obviously going to be the wide receiver who breaks out and comes ahead as the wide receiver 1, right? I think we're all agreeing on that.
If Stafford just plays solid and consistent, Puka will have an awesome season.
I'm not expecting another fabulous year from Matt Stafford. Honestly, I think he's on the down. But I do think Puka Nacua is going to be the magnet for all of the throws that he does make and the touchdowns that they are able to get.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. I got to say, I agree with you that Puka is going to probably end up being that number 1 guy. I am not as confident as all of you guys are as saying he's 100% going to be. I do think he will, but I definitely have Cooper Kupp and Puka being closer than most people have. I just think Cooper Kupp, people are forgetting how good he was, how commanding he was when he was healthy, and he was not healthy almost all year last year.
Yeah, but that's where I get worried. Is he going to be healthy all year this year?
But you can't go doing these rankings expecting injuries.
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
I disagree.
You should.
Injury history plays a part of it. You do your rankings the way you want to. Injury history does play a part for me. For example, Saquon may be a little bit higher on my list if he didn't have a little bit of injury history.
Right.
Okay.
And the way I think about it is like, who's that running back on the Rams?
Kyron Williams.
I kept getting hurt.
Gurley.
Oh, Todd Gurley.
You look at Gurley. Sure, you ranked him really high because of what he could do, but you also have to consider how often he got injured and how that impacts the fantasy league, because you're drafting it based on who's going to win you the league. You have to consider injuries in that.
Yeah, but how do you expect an injury? Now, again, I'm kind of sitting here saying
you could look at
games
played.
I'm sitting here saying devil's advocate for sure, but like I know I have definitely made decisions based on injury history. I have, but doing rankings I think is different because you're counting on skill at that point and opportunity. You're not necessarily counting on. Okay,
Hawkinson, TJ Hawkinson coming back from an MCL and an ACL tear. Does that not play a role in your
right? Of course it does, because he's expected to not start the season, so he's expected to not have games already.
Look at George Kittle. You've always drafted him under Travis Kelce, but I think George Kittle is a more skilled tight end from a receiving side than Travis Kelce.
Someone's been watching receivers. Well, I
have not watched that episode if that's the case. I'm just saying you have to factor in that Kittle is more fragile than Kelce, and you have to draft him.
Kittle's a better receiver?
He's younger. He's definitely, I think, a little bit more explosive. And if he was in a full season Yeah.
I think Kittle is.
Oh, you
actually,
mean like currently, not career wise?
Yeah.
Okay. That's fair.
I think Kittle and Kelsey are both very comparable, and if you were to swap the teams, they would both be. I think Kittle would easily be that best tight end of all time numbers if you put him on Kansas City instead of San Francisco. The thing is, Kittle's a better blocker, so he's a better overall tight end.
Right. Well, anyway, you rank how you want. Jordan and I'll rank the right way. Fifth, my wide receiver at number 5 is
Disagree.
I had to go with my Lions, Amon-Ra St. Brown. We've moved on. Move on.
No,
and now we're at
Mike. Where did you put Amon-Ra St. Brown?
I actually think I have him. You know what? No, I'm going to leave it. I have him not at 5.
Well, do you have him higher or lower than 5?
If you haven't understood what I said, I'm not saying that right now because we will go over that in future episodes. I understand what you're doing. Like, Tyler, move on.
All right, moving on. Thanks for really diving into my pick, guys. I love the conversation about Amon-Ra St. Brown. Anyway, we're going to talk about the NFC West before someone tries to talk about Rashaad Penny retiring. To start out the NFC West, as this division, we're talking about the San Francisco 49ers, the Los Angeles Rams, the Seattle Seahawks, Rashaad Penny, and the Arizona Cardinals. Starting out with the San Francisco 49ers. Yeah, you're right. Rashaad Penny was an Eagle.
I was going to say, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Woof. We've whiffed enough. Might as well keep doing it. Big name. We should just start lying and making people believe we're right.
What the?
We should just start lying and being like, oh, CD Lamb getting thrown by Brock Purdy is really going to help this team come forth, and just totally come up with a total. It's like the literal Fool's version of the Fantasy Foolz podcast.
Rossi Rice traded to Baltimore Ravens.
I'm just saying. I mean, you're laughing, but I literally did that before. Like I did that like 2 episodes ago because I actually said that someone was being thrown to by Spencer Rattler. I'm like, wait, no, he's getting picked.
No, and you also did Drew Brees.
I said Drew, but that was a mistake. That was a mistake. Well, they're both mistakes.
Wait, the others weren't.
The
others weren't. Anyway, so big name staying. Obviously, you got McCaffrey just getting traded over the 49ers, staying. Debo Samuel, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, and Brock Purdy. Kittle. Big names leaving. They don't have any big people leaving right now, but I think Brandon Ayuk is expected to be traded from what I remember.
I don't know.
There is some rumors about that. He requested one.
Right.
It's not. I'm betting on it right now. He's not being traded.
I don't know.
If when you are this close to the Super Bowl win, you don't trade one of your stars.
No,
you don't trade one of your core guys.
I agree. He is not going to be traded, but he requested a trade, and he requested a trade, but he will probably not be traded because they are going for the Super Bowl. I absolutely agree with that. He is not getting a contract. I do not believe he will get a contract.
He's not getting a contract. He's not getting traded. He's staying right there, and they're going for the Super Bowl one more time with Purdy, CMC, Kittle, Debo, and Ayuk.
They have their core this year, and that's about it.
In my opinion. They're giving
But some key additions they did add, and staying with that conversation about Brandon Ayuk, they did add Ricky Pearsall as their wide receiver. So it'd be interesting to see if they do trade him, Ricky's going to go right into that. Pearsall is going to fit right into that. True. If they don't, I'm wondering if Pearsall is going to prove himself because he's got quite a few wide receivers under his belt, and it'd be interesting to see how that dynamic goes through. But from a fantasy perspective, I think we all know who we're targeting this year.
I think everybody knows who we're targeting for that number 1 overall pick.
Everybody. Let's say it together.
1, 2, 3. McCaffrey.
Christian McCaffrey. So we're all going with McCaffrey. Are we looking at
Rashaad
Debo?
Penny?
No, he retired. Are we looking at Debo, Kittle? Are you guys looking for Purdy from a fantasy perspective?
I personally am, but he's more of feels like a safe pick when 7 or 8 other quarterbacks have already gone. I'm not shooting for him, but if that's where the Cards land, I'm not upset.
Yeah.
See, Brock Purdy is interesting to me because I don't know if I truly believe that he's going to put up that many fantasy numbers. He's got a great cast. He's got a great team in general, right? He's got great receivers. He's got a great running back. The running back himself can catch the ball. And he can clearly show that he can perform under pressure. But I just don't know if he's going to put up the numbers enough to be a relevant pocket passer because he does not really run enough.
Yeah, I think he's going to push top 10, but he'll peak at like 7 or 8. And I don't, throw back to our earlier conversation. Maybe Brock Purdy will be the one to break the chain of all these $55 million quarterbacks. He'll be the one to take that pay cut to keep winning.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
It'll be interesting.
I'll say this. I'm looking at my rankings here, and I don't have him personally in my top 10, but I guess we'll see. Guess we'll have to check that one out on a future episode.
We'll check that out in future episodes.
Yes.
We might even give you our rankings.
But, okay,
All
so
right,
who else are you guys looking at? Are you guys looking at – well, I'm curious this. Okay, so we obviously know that Ayuk is requested a trade. What about Debo? Which receiver are you guys looking for?
It depends on where they drop.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you guys got to choose, which one are you looking for? Which one would you take first?
Debo.
I would probably do Debo as well.
I think I would as well. I think it's just crazy how they fit him in the schemes. They put the ball in his hands. I mean, they literally look for any way to get the ball in his hands. So I think you have to. But all right, are we moving on? I think we can move on to the Rams here, boys. So I got to say, the Rams are one of those teams that they were pretty good last year, but I got to say I love this team as a fantasy value. Now, they didn't really add all that many people, but the people who are already on the team who are staying with just another year of experience, Matt Stafford, who's at the helm, who, quite frankly, I'd trust him to lead anyone to a Super Bowl. Got Kyren Williams, Puka Nacua. Both of them are pretty much rookies. I mean, Kyren is going into, I think, his third year, but he really didn't play much his first year. So, I mean, last year was his breakout. Then you got Cooper Kupp, and let's not forget Sean McVay at the helm. He is a offensive-minded coach, so good at coming up with these plays. And, I mean, I got to say, I'm super, super excited about where this team could go. And then you add Blake Corum in the draft. Now, let me ask you this. Tyler, what do you think Blake Corum's going to do? Is he going to really affect Kyren Williams or no?
I don't think so this year, and it depends. So I would say no. Going into this season, I don't think you really have too much to worry about. Blake Corum is, obviously in his rookie year. I don't expect. I think he's gonna be involved like a snap every 4 downs. But Kyren Williams is gonna be that workhorse.
I agree.
Kyren Williams, he's got another year on his contract. This is his 4th year.
He's got one more year. I think he's got one more year after this on his contract. Yes.
Is he ready to return? Like, is he starting the season?
Yes.
Kyren?
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe he is.
Yeah, he should be healthy.
I thought he had some sort of foot issue. And that's part of the reason they drafted Blake Corum. But I'm not too concerned about Blake Corum. I think it's still the Kyren Williams show. He's a third-year running back. So, like you said, third-year running backs that's their peak fantasy season. But, Puka, as I already mentioned earlier, I'm pretty high on him too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm with you there. I think Kyren Williams, again, you're getting a great value for you. Draft him for this year too, as long as you still have him in a dynasty. If not, he's going to be a high draft capital spend target, and I think he's worth it this year.
Is Blake Corum a good handcuff this season?
I think Blake Corum could be a decent handcuff because one thing about Sean McVay's offense, he loves to go with his guy at running back. So if something happens to Kyren Williams, Blake Corum is just stepping right in.
Yeah, Blake Corum could step up and be like a good person to stash away in the later rounds. And he might even provide flex value just because you don't know what Sean McVay is going to do on his offense. He could feature both. It could be Blake Corum could have a pretty good season in the Rams offense.
Oh, absolutely, he could.
I agree.
Now, moving on to the next team in the division, we got Seattle Seahawks. And the big names staying here are going to be DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and JSN. Same three receivers. One of the best receiving cores in the league, I think. Now, then you have Geno staying at the helm, and then Kenneth Walker leading the way at running back, and Cabernet. I don't know. It's a fancy
Charbonnet?
one. And
Charbonnet?
Charbonnet.
Mhm.
Fancy French wine boy. He's staying as well. Now, key additions here are going to be Byron Murphy and, Sam Howell as the backup. Now, Tyler, who are you focusing on from this team? Who excites you?
Honestly, not many guys. I think the only one that would excite me would be going with Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet as that backup option if you need it. It's always a good idea to get that backup secondary running back in Charbonnet. If Walker loses any time, Charbonnet is going to step right up, and he might even end the season if there's an injury to Walker. So I would be targeting them both. Charbonnet probably a little bit later. Kenneth Walker first 2-3 rounds, maybe. Yeah, I would say first 3 rounds, definitely. You know how I feel about DK Metcalf. Tyler Lockett's old. Maybe if you get a good price, JSN.
Okay, so let me ask you. Let me follow up on that. So what if I said I don't know how you feel about DK Metcalf, and what would you say if I told you that DK Metcalf outside of his rookie year has never finished under wide receiver 18?
I'd say good for him. He's so touchdown reliant, I feel like that's the problem. And you're going to get a 50-50 with him, right? Because half of his games, he does not perform. The other half, he performs really well and he explodes. He gets like 40 points. So he's that game matchup make or break guy, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
And I would rather draft someone who's going to consistently get me points over someone who's going to explode 50-50.
I also feel like he's kind of like Kyle Pitts to me. He's like a physical specimen. Like he's such a great athlete, but I keep waiting for him to have that breakout season and be like truly like top of his position at fantasy. And like you pointed out, like Mike, it's just like I'm happy with him at wide receiver too. But like Tyler said, he's gonna have weeks where he's just irrelevant.
Right.
I mean, I gotta say,
that's
Metcalf. And again, I'm not somebody who has always been on DK Metcalf's side, but like he's right now at an ADP of wide receiver 20 at pick 39. He's in the 4th round. I mean, for him to be your wide receiver 2, and then to have the possibility of exploding like that, I gotta say, I don't hate that. And that's me saying it, and I don't believe in Geno Smith at all.
I don't believe he'll explode, though. I have no reason to.
I mean, he did last year. He did 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, I'm looking at 2021. He had 1, 2, 3 games all over 20 points. Last year, he had a game in, I want to say,
but I'm looking for consistency.
34 points.
I don't want this guy who every once in a while I have to wonder, is this going to be the week he bounces off? Or is this going to be the week that I wish I had benched him? And at the end of the season, he's going to be somewhere between 18 and 22.
Who would you draft first?
Yep.
Him or Cooper Kupp? Staying in the division here.
That's a great question.
Here we go. Here come the rankings.
DK Metcalf.
You take DK Metcalf over Cooper Kupp. There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, that's another little pick. All right, what about him? What about Olave?
Olave?
Who'd you take, Metcalf or Olave?
DK Metcalf. I'm not huge into Olave this season.
Okay. I haven't heard Tyler answer yet.
No.
Tyler,
I don't
Cooper Kupp?
know.
I have Metcalf right around where you mentioned. He doesn't finish better than 18th typically, which is funny.
Cooper Kupp or DK Metcalf?
Yup.
That's a really hard one. I'm gonna go DK Metcalf.
As we're all looking at rankings.
I know. I'm looking at my rankings right now.
What rankings? Those are for future episodes.
Ironically, I got DK Metcalf above both Olave and Cooper Kupp.
Me too.
See? So this is why we still have to retool.
Well, no, it's not. I feel the same about Olave, actually. I'm not excited about having Olave on my team this year. I don't think he's going to pop off.
So, okay, let me ask you this.
Again, though.
Let me ask you this.
Let me ask you this.
No, I'm asking you one more. I'm asking one more, then you can come back to me.
Is Rashaad Penny retired or not?
Yes!
So, all right, one more comparison, and then I'll let you go, Tyler. DK Metcalf, or someone who I know we're all excited about, Nico Collins.
Nico Collins.
Nico
Collins.
Okay. All right.
Without question.
Without
question. Let me ask you this.
All right,
let me ask you this. All right. So we all decided that DK Metcalf, yes, that's where he is on our rankings. But again, I go back. When I'm looking at my rankings, I'm basing it off of total fantasy points I'm projecting on the season. DK Metcalf is going to be 50-50. So from a draft capital standpoint, yes, I think DK Metcalf is going to end the season more points. DK Metcalf is going to end the season with more points. But
then Nico Collins?
No, then Chris Olave. I would rather draft Olave because he's further down the board, and I expect more average games from him than the Metcalf 50-50. So who's going to end the season better? DK Metcalf. But from a draft point of view, I would draft Chris Olave instead because Olave's lower on the draft board.
Okay.
I would go DK Metcalf, I think, still, between those two.
I'm again just thinking like you're going to get 50-50 games with DK as opposed to Olave. I feel like you'll get a consistent 13, 14, 15 points with the occasional 20. Metcalf, you're going to have 9, 9, 9, 25, 8, 11, 30.
See, I don't know. I feel like DK Metcalf gets a lot of hate for not a lot of reason. And I know I'm guilty of it as well. And I know I can even go back to earlier on in this podcast, like mid-season, when we all basically said, hey, Jordan, you were asking us.
Episode.
No. In this season, Jordan, do you remember
episode?
No. Okay, fine. But I'm talking about earlier this season. Do you remember when you asked me and Tyler, hey, who would you play? And we basically chose you to sit DK Metcalf the week he got like 35 points. He had 3 touchdowns that week.
Yeah. I remember both of you being like, "No, sit him. I'm telling you."
Anyway, that is my love for DK Metcalf.
Wait, it was the week he played the Cowboys, I believe, and we were thinking, no, their defense is really good,
too good.
Everyone's been doing bad in fantasy against the Cowboys defense. Okay, but moving on from DK Metcalf and that terrible decision you both made is.
You made the decision.
Let's move on to. Yeah. We were wrong as a group.
No. You were wrong. I gave a recommendation.
You were wrong.
I'm like a consultant, okay? You're going to pay me to show and say my opinion anyway, but I have no fault.
The fault is with you. I bear the fault with you. But moving on to other players here. With the Seattle Seahawks, the other 2 players I'd like to talk about are Geno and Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett, is he relevant in fantasy for you guys at this point? I love that guy. He's awesome, but
for me, no. I think he's hit his
wide
prime.
receiver 4 or 5.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're not. I don't think you're going to get much from him. I think it's all going to go to JSN instead of Lockett, honestly.
See, that's what I think. Metcalf stays the same, and JSN starts taking Lockett's targets.
Want to know what scares me about what you guys are saying? I want to believe what you're saying, but I just traded away JSN because I don't know if the Seahawks feel that same way. They just gave him a new contract. They just gave him a new contract this offseason. They signed him for 2 more years at almost $15 million a year. He's still going to be a part of this offense because they just literally paid him.
I could see that, but yeah, we'll see.
But also, I don't know. I just I don't.
Want to know what else I heard?
First off, I don't.
I heard this today about them, about the Seahawks. They actually just released a hype video of JSN. They did. And guess what? The highlight of it was a catch he made last year. They have nothing new. They have nothing new out of training camps. They have nothing new out of OTAs. Nothing. So I don't know. I don't know if they really have that much faith in JSN after picking him.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And
but moving on,
what about
that was the Seahawks. No, I think we're done there, right? Unless you got one more thing.
We really haven't
say,
gone
where does
over
Geno
much.
land for you, and where does Kenneth Walker land for you? Geno, maybe as my backup, but nothing special. He's not going to be number 5 like he was 2 years ago.
Geno is not going to be on my roster.
And Kenneth Walker, is he going to be RB2 or RB3?
1.
Ooh,
He's an RB1.
I think he really might be. He's probably a
on
fringe
his team
for
or
me.
in fantasy. He's a top
fantasy.
RB1. You think he's top 12?
I think
Yes.
he's flirting with top 12
Ooh.
for sure. I think he's flirting with top 12. I think Kenneth Walker has the skill set. And see, this is what makes him tough to gauge, though, because anything we know about Kenneth Walker is all skill, but we know nothing about the scheme. They just got a new coach.
I mean, you're right. I definitely would put Walker in top 12, though. Geno,
he's not top 12
maybe
for
a
me.
backup. Well, that's
Daniel
good.
Jones or Geno Smith?
Geno Smith. All day.
I just because of my
Easy.
love for Neighbors. I have a love for Neighbors, and that's
Easy.
the only reason. I'm gonna go DJ. I'm gonna go DJ.
We should come up with a bet, Tyler. If Daniel Jones versus Geno Smith bet.
Yeah, put it together. I will gladly take that. Anyway, moving on to the Cardinals, the Arizona Cardinals. Big name staying. Kyler Murray is still there along with James Conner, Michael Wilson, and Trey McBride. They did lose Hollywood Brown. They did lose Zach Ertz, but they added Marvin Harrison Jr. and Trey Benson, running back, who I think is going to be a great addition to this team for maybe not fantasy relevant right now, or at least not the first half of the season, but excited to see him take over the backfield from James Conner. Who else? Well, first off, are you guys targeting guys like Trey Wilson or James Conner? And who else are we looking at?
I mean, Trey McBride.
Besides Marvin Harrison. What?
I mean, Trey McBride.
I don't know who Trey Wilson is.
Trey Benson. I'm sorry, Trey Benson.
Jordan, do you want to go first?
Yeah. I'm not targeting Kyler Murray.
See, okay.
But James Conner, he's a pretty consistent running back. I like James Conner.
So I actually just traded for James Conner, and I think he's going to have a great season. And I actually just traded for him in my Dynasty League. I'm not saying I love him for Dynasty because he is 28 years old. They did just draft, in my opinion, his replacement. But he's coming off of his best year. I think he finished like number 12 on the season. Let me pull up his stats really quick because I don't remember him off the top of my head. But I mean, I will say he was absolutely fantastic last year going into a age 28 season.
He was 15th.
15?
Yeah.
Okay.
15.
He was 18 in this league. So you take him. You take him.
Listen, I'll take him. I think he's going to actually do very well because he actually was putting up top 10 numbers once Kyler Murray came back. Now, someone who I am surprised you're saying you're going to completely avoid Kyler Murray. Why would you avoid Murray, Jordan?
I don't like Kyler Murray. I don't know. I think not a big fan of him. He's all right in fantasy, but you know, he hasn't played in 2 seasons. It's a totally new coach. Then when he did play in 2021, I just like for me, he has to come back and prove he still got it before I'm really interested in him. There's other quarterbacks that I'm more confident in than Kyler Murray.
Yeah, but so I would say I actually, Kyler Murray in my eyes, I think is going to be a top 10 quarterback. He's going to be using his legs, which he was notorious for before. And I think, I definitely think I'd target him. Obviously, there's guys ahead of him, and depending on where I draft him, he's a great starting quarterback option, in my opinion. I think he's going to lead this offense, maybe not to a Super Bowl, but fantasy-wise, he's going to put up numbers, if not throwing, then through his legs.
So I'm with Tyler here. I mean, Kyler Murray, he was out for half the season last season, right? And the Cardinals looked lost. Their offense was nothing. They were, I think, ranked like 29th. They were at the bottom of the league as far as points per game. When he came back, they were a top 15 offense. And with nobody on the team, by the way. Now you're adding in Marvin Harrison Jr., adding in Trey Benson. It's another year after the breakout of Trey McBride. I think there's going to be a lot of weapons. I think there's going to be a vastly improved team. And I think that Kyler Murray might be your sleeper quarterback. He's my sleeper quarterback, I'll say that, to where I would feel like he has the potential that you draft him later on in the draft, maybe looking at like the 6th, 7th round, maybe even later. But he has the possibility of being a top 5 QB in fantasy.
Yeah. Now, are you guys looking at Marvin Harrison Jr. from a redraft league? Are you looking at, I think we're all looking at Trey McBride, obviously factoring into where the tight ends are and how much you want to spend on them. But I think Trey McBride this is going to be I feel like we all think he's going to perform pretty well this season, unless I'm wrong.
No, I think you're right.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think you're right. But I will say the number one target on this offense will be Marvin Harrison Jr. I think Trey McBride really benefited from being the number one last year. And I do think that people are nothing against skill. I mean, he has tremendous skill, but I do think it's going to really hurt his value given the fact that they just drafted this monster who's going to be asking for a lot of targets.
Yeah. It's going to depend on Kyler's ability to spread the ball. And, he can't do that. So it's not like he hasn't had to. Back in 2020 and 2021, he had multiple mouths to feed back then. And, DeAndre Hopkins and Zach Ertz still put up numbers.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a guy we're looking at drafting, right? But the one, I know you guys might avoid, but I think a kind of a sneaky late bench pick. Honestly, I'm looking at a guy like Michael Wilson, who you did see start to get used in the second half of the season and actually performed average from a fantasy perspective, but he started taking more snaps, and that's what I'm looking at. He ended the season 88%, 90%, 86, 83. I'm thinking this could be good news for a kind of a sneaky pick there.
He could definitely be a sneaky pick. I know I picked him up in a dynasty league going into last season before the draft, before anything. I'm about ready to drop him just because I think that I was hoping he would blow up into their number one, and that possibility is lost. Right now, you're looking at Michael Wilson being the number 3 receiver. After it's going to be Marvin Harrison Jr. and it's going to be Trey McBride. I just don't see any other room for that. So I know I was optimistic for him for all the reasons you just said, and I think they're valid. But I think that the drafting of Marvin Harrison Jr. has really put a ceiling on where Michael Wilson can go.
Yeah, it's put a ceiling on him. He's obviously going to be, number 2 in the wide receiver room. But, it's still Trey McBride has to play tight end. So it does open up Michael Wilson to be a sleeper. I think that's a fair point, Ty.
Yeah, and to think you're not going to spend anything on him. He's going to be maybe your 3rd, 4th, 5th bench pick if you get there. I think the your spend is low. The potential upside could be high, but you'll know right away, right? If he doesn't perform the first 2 games for the Cardinals, then yeah, I'm with you. It's probably time to drop him because if he doesn't get used then. He's from a rookie Marvin Harrison Jr. He's not going to be targeted much.
But also, it's new coach. Kyler Murray's back.
Right.
He's, so for all we know, they're going to spread the ball a lot. They're going to do a West Coast offense where they go side to side rather than one guy deep with Marvin Harrison Jr. And like you said, Ty, who knows? Maybe he's the guy off the first 2 weeks on the waiver wires. Everybody's like, man, how did I not see this coming? He's number 2 on his roster in the wide receiver room, and no one thought of him.
Right. I'm thinking of him as being a potential like T. Higgins, who's obviously second to Jamar Chase, but still has a fantasy relevancy. Now, again, not high. He's not going to win you seasons. But
Maybe
again,
Devonta Smith?
right. But it'll be interesting. So Cardinals, that's the Cardinals. Any other Cardinals comments?
Not much. I mean, again, we talked a little bit about James Conner. I guess I'm valuing him a little higher than you guys are, but where would you end up putting him? Like, let's just say, like, in a dynasty ranking, right? Like, where would you want James Conner? Would you be willing to pay for James Conner?
No.
Dynasty, no.
No? Interesting.
Nope.
Not even for a 1 year
I'd be
rental.
willing to pay cheap.
Yeah, cheap. If I got him for basically nothing.
I'm only asking because Tyler, you were in my dynasty league, and I asked you, what do you think of it? And you're like, oh yeah, sure, give up Jalen Waddle.
I'm gonna trade.
I did say no.
Retired
I told you.
Rashaad Penny for him.
Yes. Anyway, so that is NFC West.
Michael
and
Thomas.
before we end, we have to do what we always do and spit of the hat, rank these teams first to last. I'm going Niners, Cardinals, Rams, Seahawks.
Ooh. Whoa. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm immensely impressed, but I gotta go Niners, then the Rams, then the Cardinals, then the Seahawks.
Same as Mike. Niners, Rams, Cardinals, Seahawks.
Wow, we're showing tremendous love to the Cardinals here.
So,
Yeah.
who's your number one fantasy wide receiver in this division?
That's a good one.
That's Puka Nacua.
Puka.
Easy.
Yeah,
Wow.
Puka.
I guess
What about you, Mike?
I guess I have to
Deebo?
go Puka.
Or Puka?
I was really
Okay.
torn there actually a little bit. And I did not reference
think we
my
all
rankings.
Running back Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
easy.
Who's the quarterback?
Which is so
in this
upsetting, by the way. I'm not going to lie. I have a lot of love for Kyron, but yeah, McCaffrey's number
I know,
one.
but he's not going to be. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Kyron, in another division, he's probably number one.
Honestly,
But-
yeah. Honestly, yeah. I think like pretty much in most other divisions, he's going to be our number one. But yeah, go on.
Quarterback, Jordan, I would go from a fantasy perspective, it's going to be Kyler Murray is the top fantasy performer quarterback.
I'm eager to hear who he says. I'm all Kyler.
You think so?
Yes, I'm all Kyler.
Brock Purdy.
I was waiting for it. I actually wasn't sure if you were going to say Stafford though. I think we have a very clear
All right,
bottom.
and-
I thought about it, but no, Stafford. He's just a little bit older. I think Brock Purdy. He's still kicking it with his old crew, man. He's gonna keep doing what he does.
For one more year.
All right, end us out with tight ends. Who are we going with tight ends from this division? Or tight end?
I'm
This
going
one's
with
more,
Trey
I think,
McBride.
might be the.
Wow.
That's why I think it's
Yeah.
the most tough battle actually in this division. I thought it was going to be receiver, but I think this one's the closest. Tyler,
It's George Kittle.
I think you got to go George Kittle.
Yeah.
Who's the Rams tight end?
Nobody.
Unknown. Isn't it Higbee?
But
Tyler
anyway.
Higbee?
Tyler Higbee.
Oh, yeah, Tyler Higbee. Yeah, but he's like 11, 12, 13. But
I'm
anyway,
going
guys,
Kittle over McBride.
that was episode number 26 where Rashaad Penny actually retired. And on that note, I think it's time to end.
Can you imagine he tweets? He's like, I'm retired.
I'm back. All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. Give us a like, give us a follow, listen to us on Spotify, watch us on YouTube. Thanks for joining and looking forward to seeing you next week. See you later, fools.